Greetings everyone, welcome to video number 24 in the project management series presented by Process Geekoid. Today's agenda will be going over reviewing the PMBOK process table as well as the 21st process, which is the estimate cost process. This process occurs at the intersection of the cost knowledge area and the planning process group. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment. So let's move forward. So after planning for cost management, the next process is estimate cost, and it is the process of developing an approximation of monetary resources needed to complete the project activities. There are two major types of estimation techniques used to estimate costs, and this is top-down and bottom-up estimating. So for top-down, we have analogous estimating, which is basically estimating based on projects with similar size, weight, and complexity. Next, we have rough order of magnitude, which is done early on in the project when the scope is not clearly defined yet. And we have negative 50 to plus 50% or negative 25% to plus 75% as an estimation range. Next, we have budgetary estimate, which is negative 10 to plus 12.5% at the control account level of the WBS, and is not as accurate, but it is easier to do. So all top-down estimates are not accurate, but easy to do based on data that we have. The next flavor of estimation is bottom-up estimating, which is more thorough, and we have different types where we go to each resource and get information and is more detailed and needs more effort. So we have definitive estimation, which is negative 5 to plus 10% done at the work package level of the WBS. Then we have parametric estimation, which is using historical data or statistical relationships to come up with these estimates. Then we have 3-point estimate, which is pessimistic, optimistic, and most likely. Next we have ITTOs, inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs for estimate cost. It is the process of developing an approximation of the monetary resources needed to complete project activities. The inputs are as follows: cost management plan. This is an output from plan cost management. HR management plan, which is an output from plan human resources, now known as plan resource management in PMBOK 6. Scope baseline is coming from create WBS process. Project schedule is coming from the develop schedule process. Risk register is part of the risk planning process coming from identify a risk. EEFs are market conditions or published commercial information on cost. And OPAs are organizational process assets that guide us in cost estimating policies and templates, lessons learned, and historical information. So the key benefit of this process is that it determines the amount of cost required to complete project work. That's why we're estimating. So for tools, we have expert judgment, and that can come in the form of historical estimates on a internal site or external site from a commercial website to estimate how much materials and labor will cost. Then you have analogous estimates, which are estimates based on previous projects of similar size, weight, and complexity. So for instance, if you're building a house and you're building it, let's say in South Dallas, you will build a condo in Capel, then you would need to take estimates from the previous project and use that as a basis to estimate. And it's not going to be perfect, but it will get you in the ballpark. Parametric estimation is estimation technique that utilizes statistical relationships that exist between series of historical data and particular portrayal of other variables, such as square footage in the case of a house. So we'll see typically for houses they have cost per square foot. So that's basically an example of parametric estimation. Next, bottom-up estimation is usually the best type of estimation, and estimates based on going to each individual person in the project and who actually do the work and get their estimate on how long it takes to do the work and how much they're getting paid. So the cost for the activity is typically hours they work times the pay rate plus equipment cost and material cost. So keep in mind, bottom-up estimating is using the WBS from create WBS process and estimate cost and schedule duration at the work package level, the lowest level of the WBS. All estimates for cost at the work package level are aggregated for a total estimation of resources. This will be soon used to develop the budget. Next, we have 3-point estimation used in Monte Carlo simulation in perform quantitative risk analysis as well as in this process estimate cost. We can use a Monte Carlo to estimate cost as well. And it uses the pessimistic estimate, optimistic, and most likely estimates. Next, we have reserve analysis for tools where we analyze the contingency reserves, which is money set aside for known accepted risks as part of the cost baseline, and management reserves, which is money set aside for unknown risks or unknown unknowns outside of the cost baseline. Cost of quality is the cost of achieving quality, so how much money we put into achieving the quality itself, what kind of measures we have internally to check for quality. That's what the cost of quality is. How much it takes, how much money it takes to achieve the quality that the customer is looking for. Project management software, we use MS Project or Oracle, Primavera, or any other tools that help us contain the budget and estimate costs. Vendor bid analysis is taking in the bids and amounts for services to be performed that vendors gave from the bidder conference during the performed procurement process and is used to estimate costs. So we're analyzing all the different bids that each vendor has come up to us as potential options for us to consider to estimate costs. And once we sign on a contract, we take that bid in consideration as to how much it will cost for the third-party vendor to do their job for that part of the project. Then we have group decision-making techniques. We have dictatorship, one-person rule, one person makes a choice and everyone has to follow it, which isn't fair. The best type of group decision-making is unanimous decision-making where all parties agree. An example of this is using the Delphi technique where we send a questionnaire anonymously to experts to get input and make decisions. So getting that will reduce bias. Majority is where we have 50% agree, and then plurality is where we have the largest block in favor by voting and decide the outcome without 50% of majority, which is not fair and is usually not encouraged. And typically this type of model is more done by lobbying groups without reaching 50% majority. And we don't want to do that in a project. Outputs, we have activity cost estimates where we have basis of estimates, and that is what we are using as a baseline or reference for estimating costs. And then we have project document updates as outputs. So the basis of estimates consists of documentation of the basis of estimate of how it was developed, documentation of all assumptions made, documentation of any known constraints, indication of the range of possible estimates to indicate that the item is expected to cost between a range of values, and it also indicates the confidence level of the final estimate. So those are all the pieces for outputs. Once again, the key principle in estimate cost process is that the less is known earlier in the project, hence we use rough order of magnitude estimates, and the wider the tolerance in the beginning. But then when we get down and drill down to the work package level for definitive estimates, we have more detail, and then the range of risk is minimized when we have detailed estimates. So that's really important to know that in the WBS, we are using that here to estimate costs, and that at the project level, we have rough order of magnitude. When we get to the control account level, we have to estimate on budgetary estimates. Then on work package level, we have the definitive estimate. So keep that in mind when you're estimating costs. The more detailed you have it, the better off you have in terms of having an accurate budget that you will develop next. Thank you for watching. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you.